Team Sonic Racing ended up being a Sonic game that I bought purely from word of mouth, since the game's marketing material pre-release had done little to excite me, even after it was delayed to give it more development time. But eventually my social media feeds were full of people enjoying the game from early copies, and once my friends had it, I succumbed to the peer pressure pretty quickly and joined in. Even as a big fan of Sumo Digital's last kart racer, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, I was fully prepared to skip out on TSR, but I'm glad I didn't. I've really enjoyed my time with the game, but there are enough areas that fall short that I decided to squeeze in a video between my university assignments and my trip to California this month. In short, my issues with Team Sonic Racing lie in its treatment of various gameplay elements that Transformed had done much better 7 years beforehand. Some of my criticisms could be addressed with future updates and paid downloadable content, while more complex ones may need to wait for an eventual sequel in the years to come. I should mention that I think the amount of content included at launch is just about enough to satisfy its price point, so I'd like to remind everyone that my criticisms are more about the game as a whole experience, rather than only judging if it's worth your money. Since the game is still pretty new, and I'm trying to get this video done quickly, I may skip out on some details or get a few things wrong. If so, please address it in the comments for me. Also, FTCR released a similar video the day I finished this script, so trust me, it's all a coincidence if there's any similarities. I would recommend checking out their video as well, since I agree with just about everything in it. Now, let's rev up those engines and speed through my thoughts with Team Sonic Racing. I'd first like to briefly address the game's overall presentation. I think the tracks look really nice, but does anyone else notice the excessive amounts of glow effects and bloom? It really washes out the colours of each stage, and especially ruins the visuals through compressed video footage here on YouTube. I think it's most noticeable with the rooftop run stages like Market Street, where the entire stage is washed out from the prominent glow of the item boxes, clouds, boost pads, and white roads. A lot of the vehicles are highly reflective as well, which adds to the blurry look even more. If we compare a stage like Ocean View with its original counterpart from Transformed, I think we can see a huge aesthetic difference. In Transformed, the stage is much clearer, with a lovely blue sky and no obnoxious glow from the floor. I think it looks kinda better, to be honest. In general, Transformed just looks a lot clearer, and the colours pop a lot more often, letting the dash pads and item boxes stand out more. I'm normally all for a nice bit of bloom to spice up some lighting, but I think TSR went a little bit too far. While the lighting, models, and textures are technically better than Transformed, I think in some areas, aesthetically, Transformed actually does overall look nicer. I should stress, however, that this doesn't apply to every stage in the game. The Planet Wisp tracks look amazing, along with the casino ones, and the other Seaside Hill themed tracks like Lost Palace look a lot nicer. It's just a little bit inconsistent. Most of the in-game character models are gross as always, in tradition with the All-Stars series, which is a shame. The game also uses about 3 to 4 different styles of character rendering, between the hero renders, the team renders in the corners during gameplay, and the story mode renders. The ones there are even more inconsistent, as some look quite nice, like Knuckles, Amy, and Rouge, but Sonic's in particular are pretty dreadful. The lighting is really flat, and one pose in particular just looks terrible. Shadow looks like he came out of the Sonic Hero style of rendering with how prominent the highlights are on his brow creases. And Eggman has some really unsettling poses too, I don't like his teeth. The vehicles are quite varied through their basic customization options, which I'm only really bringing up because I wish the core designs of the cars could have been a bit better. I like Sonic and Tails cars for example, but Amy and Silver look like they're driving big shoes, and I miss the variety from the previous games. Not even counting the transforming vehicles, I miss when Shadow had a motorcycle, Tails had a plane, and everyone just felt a little more unique, you know? At the very least, being able to mix and match color palettes and different paint materials is a really nice touch to the game that I hope sticks around in future. I had a lot of fun designing different color schemes for all of my characters. I just wish that the cars themselves looked a bit cooler too. But hey, Green Hill Zone is back once again through this paint feature, so I guess that makes it an instant 10 out of 10. In terms of sound, the music in this game is incredible. I'm a big fan of almost all of it. My favorites are probably the jazz rock hybrids of Planet Wisp, the funky remixes of Sandopolis from 3NK and Sand Hill from SA1, and the original track for Lost Palace. Not really a huge fan of Crush 40's new song Green Light Ride though. I love a lot of their music, but this one didn't really do it for me. As an aside, I also really hate how the music drowns itself out when you're flying through the air, because sometimes this happens for several seconds on end, and I just want to hear the music. But overall, great tunes in this one. I'm happy to hear a great soundtrack in a Sonic game again, after how awful the music in Forces was. Voice acting is just as bad as ever, unfortunately. Unlike the previous All-Stars games, this title has original dialogue, both for its new story mode and for standard in-game chatter, similar to Sonic Heroes and Forces. While I don't like the current voice cast, at least it means the characters aren't using out-of-context reused lines from previous games for no reason.
Who are you, and how do you know my name?
As usual, Roger isn't even trying as Sonic.
Wow, that's awfully big of you, Shadow. But I'm not sure it's just Eggman's plan we've got to smash.
I don't like Kirk Thornton's Shadow.
I'm not here for you, and I'm not working with the Doctor. I'm here to put an end to his evil plans.
And Mike Pollock feels like he's just playing himself.
I don't keep score.
It doesn't help that the dialogue is terrible as well. Characters are constantly communicating with each other mid-race, and sometimes it's fine, maybe even offering some slight insight into the character's personality and just keeping the match feeling more alive, but when it's just lines like, "Wow, bounce pads, lol," I'm reminded why I turned the voices down in the audio settings. Not that it stopped Big's voice from suddenly becoming extremely loud during one of my sessions though.
Let me help you. I'm higher than Froggy! I've never been this high!
I'd probably still take this over the obnoxious commentator from the first All-Stars game. Even the one in Transformed wasn't that much better since he just threw out pretty useless information non-stop. Like, yes, I know how to play the game. I should say that it isn't all bad though. I think Blazer's new voice is great.
What is going on with you, Silver? I can tell something is on your mind.
And Omega and Vector sound alright.
More egg ponds to exterminate. Excellent.
It's mainly Sonic that really annoys me with his brain-dead, oof, epic stunt fail garbage that he spouts. The story mode dialogue is so bad that Sonic and Shadow act like little boys having a fight in their backyard playpen while trying to do voice impressions of themselves. But whatever, I didn't come to the racing game to get a good story. I would just really prefer if Sonic was actually a nice character again, instead of being a stupid high school jock who insults everyone he sees. Lines like, "Our team's gonna beat you down," don't really fit Sonic's personality if you ask me, and I'm also really not a fan of Shadow just being an edgelord all the time. He was nothing like that in the end of Sonic Adventure 2.
Sonic, I think I've discovered what the ultimate life form is. It might be you.
The character roster of Team Sonic Racing is probably the game's most obvious issue to a casual fan, because for some reason Zavok made it into a racing game before Cream the Rabbit or a true Team Chaotix. Not to mention a more fitting villain like an Egg Robo or Chaos, or why not something funny like a Motobug. The Babylon Rogues could have made for a fun team as well, having a bit of crossover with the Riders series. The Chow could have been made into their own team by splitting them up. And come on, where's my classic Sonic? This is a spin-off, so go ahead and add in characters from all over the place, who cares? Team Mania with Classic Sonic, Mighty and Ray could have been awesome. To be fair, the previous Sumo Digital kart races had some strange roster choices as well. Now, it's the stage choices that are probably my biggest issue with TSR, even outside of the core gameplay changes that I'll talk about soon. The Sonic spin-offs have a history of reusing the same level themes from Sonic Heroes, and then more recently any stages that were already reused for Sonic Generations. There's often one exception, Starlight Carnival from Transformed for example, but most of the track themes in TSR are ones we've seen plenty of times before. We've got Seaside Hill from Sonic Heroes, and every All-Stars game before, and Sonic Generations. Planet Wisp that was in Colors and Generations. Rooftop Run from Unleashed and Generations. Casino Park from Sonic Heroes and the other All-Stars games, and Final Fortress, also from Sonic Heroes, and also from the previous All-Stars games. The only new themes here are Sandopolis from 3 and Knuckles, which mixes in elements from Sonic Forces anyway, and Glacier Land, which isn't even directly based off any existing Sonic zones, unless it's meant to be some weird hybrid between Lava Reef and Ice Cap Zone. Honestly, this whole set of tracks just feels like it's trying to be Mario Kart 8, with the giant lava golem ripped right from Bowser's castle, and the shipping area coming straight from Ice Ice Outpost. I really just wish that more of the stage themes were sourced from all across Sonic's history, rather than ones that we've already done over and over. I'm not even saying that the tracks are bad, it's just that their visual identity is a bit overdone at this point. Each theme is stretched across 3 separate tracks, so it all starts to feel a bit repetitive, and the stages blend together. Of the game's 21 tracks, 9 are returning from the previous All-Stars titles. I wouldn't mind that ratio as much if the game had more tracks in total, but it still makes it feel just a bit lacking in terms of variety. To compare, Transformed only had 4 returning tracks, while every other stage was brand new. Again though, I should make it clear that I really do enjoy most of the tracks in TSR, especially some of the new ones. Planet Wisp was a fantastic addition, and some of the redone stages feel a lot nicer than they did in the original All-Stars Racing, especially since I really don't like the first one at all. Seriously, I went back to it briefly for this video, and it's nothing but straight lines, no alternate pathways, and just, it's boring. It's honestly really boring. The presentation is aged terribly as well. Just listen to the audio here and try to decipher what's going on.
Eggman decides it's rocket time! Now, allow me to introduce my Eggman's rocket showing no mercy!
Oh, and hi Rihanna. Also, does anyone else find it a bit weird that Team Sonic Racing was originally teased with some kind of hint towards Sonic R being involved somehow, only for it to have no inclusion whatsoever outside of a handful of music tracks? It's criminal that Can You Feel the Sunshine isn't used in any of the race tracks and is just used on the mod pod screen. And finally, the core gameplay has some elements that I really do want to discuss. Team Sonic Racing completely ditches the transforming vehicles from the previous game, and focuses instead on an experience much more comparable to that of a Mario Kart title. Simpler racetracks, simpler items, and an overall lack of gameplay complexity in some areas. This really is my biggest issue with the game, and was what originally made me ignore it during marketing. The transforming was gone, and instead we had this lame team system, so why should I care? Well, it turns out the team mechanic is actually pretty cool. It's not amazing, it could definitely use further development on the idea, but working together can be super fun when playing with friends. The issue is that it can make the game less engaging in single player, especially when you're relying on the AI racers in your team to pick up the slack. This becomes quite frustrating in the game's story mode Grand Prix when I'm in first place but my teammates are slacking off back in 9th or 10th or something. The team mechanic is broken down into a few major elements. For starters, the characters are classed akin to their Sonic Heroes team types: Speed, Technique instead of Fly, and Power, each having their own different strengths. For example, Speed characters can repel projectiles while boosting. I think I hardly even knew that was in the game until it told me about it. Technique characters can tread over rougher terrain without drastically slowing down, and Power characters can smash through obstacles on the path. It's kind of similar to how the first Sonic Riders implemented its character system, except where each type works together. While playing single player, you're forced on sticking with the characters of each respective team, like Team Sonic or Team Rose. But when playing with friends, you're free to mix and match between teams, so you don't always need to have one of each type on your team. Different types have access to different Wisp items as well, and some Wisps are only available by swapping items with your teammates. Item swapping is a pretty cool system, especially when you're in first and just want to get rid of a useless item and send it to a teammate who's lagging behind. The best part is that the items reshuffle each time you send them, so a bad item in first place can become very useful to someone in 12th, and vice versa. Swapping items also builds the team meter a lot quicker, which is used to activate a team ultimate. Think of it as a super boost, or just a slightly nerfed version of the all-star moves from the previous games. It's far more powerful than the Yellow Drill, aka the bullet bill from Mario Kart, and can really turn games around in your favour. The two other team elements that also function to charge up the ultimate meter are the much more entertaining skim boosts and slingshots, which are where the majority of my fun has come from in TSR. If there's one thing the Sumo Digital racers have always gotten right, it's their sense of speed, and TSR definitely has that with these new forms of boosting. Whoever's furthest ahead of the team leaves behind a yellow trail on the ground, which when driven over provides your teammates a super burst of speed that gets more powerful the longer it's driven over. When a team really works together, they can slingshot off each other over and over, building a maximum boost and zooming forward to leave their own trail for the team to follow from next. This has been the best part of playing online with friends and is something I really want to practice with. The sense of speed is incredible here. Likewise, the skim boost allows teammates to get each other back into the race after they've already been stunned by an item. Unfortunately, the more Mario Kart-ish items means that getting hit without any chance to react or defend yourself is quite common in TSR. Another racer of your team can zoom past to get you back up to speed really quickly. It's honestly very thrilling. The larger the difference in speeds between the two teammates, the stronger the boost. It's a great feature, but the only issue is that if you're up ahead winning in first place, you're never really going to use this one. Same with the slingshot. If you're always in front, sure you get to leave the trail, but you never get to interact with it yourself. I feel that maybe one more team mechanic on top of these ones could have really brought everything together even better, or maybe advancing the complexity of the slingshots and skim boosts somehow. I mean, I know an obvious way to do that, and it involves special transforming vehicles, but I'll get there soon. The game does have the option to play traditional races without teams, but funnily enough, it's way more boring like this. Without teammates, the ultimate ability is gone, so you don't even have any kind of super move to use to blast past everyone, since the individual all-star moves are completely absent. If you pick up an item you don't want, you can't just send it to another player anymore, because, well, you're on your own without a team. There's no skim boost to get you back into the race, and when you're inevitably hit by the stupid lightning wisp, or get stuck in between rocks from the quake wisp, there's no yellow trails to follow to get super massive boosts from. With the team mechanic removed, the game is stripped down to its most basic level, which kind of reveals some of its faults. With all of these unique team mechanics in mind, let's jump back to Transformed for a little bit. While the core driving of the cars is about the same, the addition of boats and planes, not to mention highly dynamic racetracks that change at least somewhat as each lap progresses, added a lot more to Transform's skill ceiling and overall appeal. The games both have shared issues for sure. I think all of the All-Stars games, especially the first one, suffer from some areas of racetrack feeling really boring from how many straight lines there are. It's hard to balance twists and turns in such a fast kart racer, but levels like Starlight Carnival in Transformed and Sky Road in TSR can feel really boring when you're not even moving the analog stick. Transformed suffers from this most in its flying sections that are often long, open straight lines. It also has really weird, stupid items like the Blowfish and Twister. For some reason they weren't themed around anything from Sonic or Sega, which I've never understood. At least the usage of wisps in TSR feels pretty appropriate for a kart racer. To get to the point, it's really just the highest skill ceiling in Transformed that I miss seeing in TSR. The team mechanic is great, but in the end it only works when your team is good. I wish that the core racing had the skill involved from Transformed but combined it with the team system. Imagine if the slingshot was combined into the wave physics in the boat sections of Transformed, where racers could create huge ripples in the water for their teammates to flip from and earn more boosts. Jets could leave behind boost rings or something similar, and that's just one basic idea I came up with on the spot to combine these two mechanics together. What if teammates could split up, with one or two on the ground or in the water racing below, and one member was in the sky clearing a path forward and interacting across two different levels of the racetrack? Transform played with this idea a little bit in sections where players could reach jet areas early and soar above the competition below. This made the transforming element feel so much stronger, and I wish it was pushed further. Transformed also gave the jets an extra element of depth with risk boosts, where a player could intentionally approach an obstacle and dodge at the last second, earning them extra speed. While the items were uninspired, at least none of them were unavoidable. The swarm item that spawned a bunch of wasps could be driven through with precision, unlike the Quake Wisp in TSR, which on some terrain is basically impossible to get past. And the Twister would invert the player's controls, but so long as you understand how to mirror your inputs, you were safe. It wasn't even that much of a punishment. The items weren't broken enough that a skilled player couldn't recover from them or fight back if they were good enough, basically. In the end, the thing I miss most are the dynamic laps. These were always the big selling point that I told friends about. It hits home with Ocean View in TSR when the ground doesn't give away like it did in Transformed to reveal an entirely new segment of the stage. I miss the amazing environmental stories from Ada's Lair based off Golden Axe, where an erupting volcano tears up the stage, and players are jumping between different interconnected track parts and flying past dragons. Or the incredible Burning Ranges stage, with its killer music track and subtle radio chatter informing you of the rising water level in the facility that changes each lap.
Transform boost.
And of course the Skies of Arcadia stage, where the players in boats do flips over bridges with players in cars driving across them. And then all the ships start exploding and blowing up the racetrack, changing in each lap, so the final lap is just one entire jet section through the sky. Transformed also had extra battle modes like Capture the Chow, which appear to be completely absent in TSR. I remember enjoying them, but maybe no one else did. Basically, Transformed just had a lot more going for it, or at the very least set a fantastic foundation to build upon for future entries. But was it as fun to play with friends? Only if they'd sunk as much time into it as I had, to be honest. TSR has already given me more engaging fun playing with my friends online so far compared to Transformed. Were the controls perfect? Probably not. It took me a little bit of getting used to the slipperier movement when going back to the game after getting used to TSR, especially for the boat sections. It's pretty easy to bump into things, and the stunts can be a little bit unresponsive too. Is the music great? Oh yeah it is, but admittedly it's not as dynamic as TSR, which has different tracks for every stage's final lap and ending. Certainly a huge step up from the original All-Stars Racing, which had no remixes at all. At least I didn't notice anyone playing it for about 15 minutes to record this footage. I really do not like that game. Are any of the Sumo Digital racing games perfect? Nah. Are they Mario Kart killers? No, not really, but Transformed really did lay the groundwork for a game that could surpass the Mario Kart games in terms of quality. At the very least, Transformed and TSR have legitimate single-player content, while Mario Kart 8 has basically none at all. Mario Kart just has an enormous amount of tracks, characters, and vehicles, almost all of which are great, but it doesn't have dynamic tracks, transforming vehicles with different gameplay properties, or a team system. Once again, as I've said with just about every Sonic the Hedgehog game ever made, these games are always rushed and are always on a tight budget. TSR already had to be delayed, but I think the game still could have used some further development time to improve its gameplay, and more time to create new dynamic courses, not to mention properly fill out the character roster with some more fan favorites. Also, I haven't mentioned this yet, but the online on PC is awful due to constant disconnects, so it definitely needed more time there, and needs to be fixed as soon as possible. When it works, but when you can't even finish a Grand Prix because everyone's dropping out all the time, it's pretty bad.
Oh my god, I just got hit backwards. What is going on? I just went like backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards.
Because I used the actual game audio in my video, you might be in my video, Tom. If I
Oh yes, mate.
The unskippable end of match results also go on for way too long. This is frankly unacceptable. Sorry, I couldn't really think of anywhere else in the video to add this little footnote. I really hope this game gets some content updates, whether free or paid, to add in additional tracks and characters to improve the experience further. I'd love a pack with stages themed after the classics or adventure titles personally, since there's so much aesthetic potential in adapting those level themes and music. Or maybe in a few years' time we'll see a new title that combines the exhilarating team gameplay with the satisfying and versatile transforming vehicles to get something truly amazing. I really do think there's a lot of potential here, and would love to see Sumo Digital provided the time and money required to make something truly brilliant. That's it from me today, everyone. By the time this comes out, I'm probably only a few days away from flying to LA, and I'm gonna have a great time. This video wasn't planned, so don't expect any new ones for a long time, probably not until December. When I do come back, well, I've got a pretty big video planned. A very generous viewer by the name of Mikester Paltos gifted me a copy of a Sonic game that I know I've talked about a lot before, but I've never fully played myself. It's one of the only Sonic games I didn't own a copy of. When I do have the time to go full force on a new video, I'll finally be making a critique on Sonic Forces. I'm honestly kind of dreading it. Follow me on Twitter, and I guess my Instagram as well if you want to see dumb pictures of me in America during my holiday. Join my Discord if you want to chat with me and others in there, and I'll see you all next time.